Hi guys, Luton here, and I've got a bit of a story for you today, and I often keep a little book with notes or ideas and things I'm thinking of that I want to make videos about, and this is something I've thought about for a while, but I think it is quite relevant going into Battlefield 4 and the kind of game experiences that people may have. And I just want to say as well today, thanks to Jack Frags for this footage. If you haven't checked out Jack's channel before, be sure to do so. Go check the links there above and below. Now, over many years, I've played with other gamers in clans that I've been in or part of, or just general game acquaintances through the PlayStation, or even just random games. Now, online play means that you regularly are going to encounter people of other nationalities, and this to me is a fantastic and often enriching experience. It's one of the best things about online play now. And especially the fact that it's so easily available. You have a much wider group of people playing than ever before, and with the advent as well of so many mics, everybody having microphone communication now, it gives you the ability to communicate faster and more effectively than you ever could before. However, this cannot always be the case, and there can be issues. For example, what if people either simply don't have a mic, or they don't speak your language at all? Or they may be simply just not confident enough to communicate, because something people often forget is that sometimes people just, they just don't feel confident to talk on the mic. And this is something I've encountered in the past myself. I mean, originally when I remember the very first time I had to talk on the mic to people when I was playing World of Warcraft, it felt so alien and weird. But once you get into the swing of it, it's actually a really fantastic, quite sort of liberating feeling. Now, in the time that I've played Battlefield 3, there always seems to be some sweeping generalizations, one being that all blueberries are incapable, or random players, incapable of anything resembling team play, and additionally that anyone not belonging to the live chat club with communication will be unaware and unable to follow requests or make the fast decisions that the mic-enabled players would be able to do. Now, this is not without an element of truth. However, I must defend the silent members of the community, as this labelling can be wholly unjustified. Now, I've played with many epic silent players in my time, people who don't have a mic, they don't communicate, but you know that they've got your back, you know you can trust them to just get on and do what they've got to do. And the first guy that I want to mention is actually not in Battlefield, he's in World of Warcraft, and this guy is the epic Veterok. He was one of my fellow warriors in my guild. I was a warrior in World of Warcraft. He was Russian, and he only spoke like the most basic of English, like super basic English, and he never used a mic either. But did this make him any less of a valuable teammate? Absolutely not. He was one of the most skilled and observant players that I ever played with. However, it did also become a bit of a joke for us that whenever we couldn't communicate with him, so regularly we'd be looking around being like, oh my god, where's Veterok gone? Because he wouldn't be telling us what he was doing. He'd just go off and do stuff and be like, has anybody seen him? And then we're just like, oh no, we'd see him like running off towards attack a huge group of Alliance that we didn't want to actually get involved with, and we're like, oh man, here he goes again, and then we'd have to get involved as well. But he was such a skilled and aware player that he could just like rip players up. And then not only that, but when we were playing as a team, if we were doing PvE or whatever, you could rely on him. He knew his role, he knew exactly where he had to be. You would tell him something once, and even though his language was basic, you could tell him, okay, you're going to go here and you're going to do this. He was 100% reliable all the time. And the key issue was that in whatever situation we found ourselves, he was just there, he was extremely skilled, observant, and he understood what it was necessary to do. Now, you compare that to many random players that you would encounter, and despite them perhaps having much better communication skills and easier to actually communicate with, they'd often have little clue about where it was they needed to be or what it was that they were supposed to be doing. So one of only many examples from World of Warcraft now leads me on to the next chapter, which is of course about FPS. Now, in many ways, FPS games are extremely simple, and they rely on two main things, which is gun skills and awareness. So for the most part, communications can largely be a subsidiary element. And also, I know a lot of people care about weapon setups, specifications, or weapons technical specs, etc., like how fast does a gun reload, and all these kind of things. But to me, what is far more important is your team awareness, your awareness as a player, where you need to be at a certain time, your ability to preempt and understand where else you have to be at a certain time. Because if you can get the drop on another player, or if you understand, okay, I've just killed them here, now there's a very, you have to think, okay, what's the likelihood of them being in another position? Do I need to adjust my placement to be in a certain place? Or for example, you look at the map and you go, okay, my team are moving here, I need to fill in this gap here, here, here. To me, that is far stronger than a player who, just understands the stats of a weapon. Not to say that that is not important, but just to say that from my personal point of view, I think having an understanding of a strong kind of situational awareness gives more benefit than just, the gun stat skills. Now, saying that comms can largely be a subsidiary element, I know the first thing that people are going to say is, oh, but it's got to be in competitive and blah blah blah. If you want to be competitive, you have to be able to communicate, etc. Now, I'm not talking about competitive, because obviously communication in competitive is an absolute given. All right, you're going to need to have really on the spot communication that is really relevant. Most people playing, that's not going to be their experience. What I'm talking about, as usual, is the average normal gamers. In reality, most of us are actually just going to be playing those kind of games. And again, even though not strictly necessary, comms give you a huge advantage. Well, yeah, of course they do, but no one's saying that they don't. Please remember that the topic at hand is about the silent players and their role there. There are some players I've played with, for example Jizza, who I regularly play with, and he simply doesn't have a mic, or he can't use one when he's playing. But does this mean that our gameplay suffers for it? Absolutely not. There are some players out there who can be, believe it or not, they think for themselves, and they don't require constant input to play a good game. And chances are, if you're going to be telling them something, they're already doing it. And this is the way it has been when I play with Jizza. He is where he needs to be, and often I'm thinking like, hey, somebody got that right hand side down there, they got that flank, you look over, he's there already, because he has had the same thought process. We're on the same page. He understands, okay, I need to go over there. Now, in random public games, you may not have enough opportunity to really get to grips with these kind of silent players. You'll simply note them as perhaps being more objective or being more observant than other players. You're not going to really engage them perhaps in actual communication. But if you play regularly with someone, as I do on my server, that they have their general initiative and their capability, it's important to remember, not all players who do not use a mic are automatically mindless randoms. They could actually be very, very skillful team players who just on that day happen to have got on, and they're not, they couldn't maybe be bothered to plug in their mic, but it doesn't mean that they don't have their situational awareness. Beware of the silent pro, because he will destroy you, and he'll destroy your objective and take it from you. Another thing that I often hear as well is that a lot of people will say, oh look, there's a team on the other side, they're going to have the communication, that means they're going to win. No, it really doesn't. You don't need to necessarily communicate. Now, for sure, alright, it is faster. Okay, if you're in game and you can say to someone, hey, there's a tank coming up on our flank, everybody is suddenly like, hey, I'll look over there to the flank. If you're a decent player and you have good awareness, and as I say, this is where it comes down to, is having these kind of good situationally aware players. They will be looking at a certain place. If it's quiet for a little bit, they'll maybe check their attention. They'll be like, okay, not much has happened here, let me just check this section. Or they'll look to other players, see what they're doing, where are they moving to, where are the empty slots, etc. A lot of it can be preempted on, a lot of it can be read from other players. You look at the kind of lay of the land, you look at the situation here, you think, where are our weak spots? Are we weak here? Do we need to reinforce here? Maybe what kind of problems have we been having? Have they been pushing a lot of armor? All of this kind of intelligence gathering it makes up your own information, and this is what individual players will be doing if they have anything about them. Now, for sure, it would be helpful to be able to communicate that, but it's not essential. And if players are doing their role here, then that's really the way it can go. But I think really what my main sort of theme here was just to think about the fact that a lot of the time, if there's a player and he's not sort of getting involved, he's not communicating, but it doesn't mean that that player won't be doing their job. And I think, people just need to think about this in the game. Don't just write every player off as blueberries. Okay, for sure, we've all been in those games where there's just players running amok all over the place. It's just anarchy in the UK. But there are people there who do understand what they're doing. And another thing that I often hear as well is when I have made videos in the past, especially over the past year, people will always say, oh, Luton, this isn't the kind of gameplay that you're showing, you're communicating with players, this isn't the kind of gameplay that we get in games because people don't use their mics, they're not on the comms. What I would say to you is encourage people, be the first person to be on the comms. Often when I join a game, Okay, and this isn't to say that, you know, it's not kind of completely contradicting what I've said before, but what I'm saying is that if there's players there that, you know, they're clearly skilled, you know, that they know what they're doing, you can encourage those people to come and then communicate, so you're getting that benefit extra. You know, if they don't want to use the mics, great, you know, I'm sure they'll be able to sort of handle themselves and they'll be able to be a good contribution. However, if you actually lead by example and encourage people to use the mics, then you may be able to get that added benefit. And this is often what I do. When I'm in a round, I'll sort of get on the comms, and even if nobody else is using the microphone, I'll start to talk and I'll say, hey guys, they're coming in here, they're coming in here. It doesn't matter if there's nobody else talking to me. If I start talking, before long, I usually get like 1 or 2 people go, hey, this guy's using his mic, let's get our mic on as well. And then before you know it, you've got a team that's communicating. So that's really the good thing about it. And it's I guess, don't just assume that silent players are just random crazies and they don't know what they're doing, because I hear this in games as well. That you're like, where's this, you know, random guy? Oh, he's going over there. Who knows what he's doing? You know, they're very quick to kind of assume that just because a player isn't sort of communicating with the team, that he must have some kind of crazy agenda or that he doesn't know what he's doing. Often I have made actually some really good friendships, and I say, like, Jizla is a really fantastic example. Jizla is an epic Battlefield player on the console with PlayStation with me, but we have pretty much never spoken on the mic. I can't even, I think never we have spoken on the mic. And so we've managed to play games where without any kind of communication whatsoever. But I have never needed to, because when we play games, I look at where he is or where he's going, or he looks at what I'm doing and he understands. He goes like, okay, Luton's doing this, so therefore I'm going to need to go XYZ in order to support him. Or similarly, I do the same. I'm like, okay, where's Jiz going? He's moving up there. Okay, right, I'm going to have to follow him, or okay, I think he's got that in hand, so now I can do on something else. This is really what team play is always going to be about. It's sort of understanding the people that you play with, looking at what they're capable of. If you see a player that is strong and they're going to a certain place, you realise, okay, that job is handled, so I can focus my attention on other things. So the communication part, it's like a very strong benefit for sure, but it's an extra thing. It's not the most important thing. As I say, guys, this wasn't really this wasn't telling people how to be today. It wasn't telling people like, oh, this is the only way you're going to play. It wasn't even sort of saying to people things that they maybe didn't know already, because I'm sure there's been many games that you've played where there have been other guys who don't communicate, they're not on the mic whatsoever, but they got your back, they know what they're doing, they know what they're there. I think this was today just a bit of a story for me about players who don't communicate in a world now where microphones for gaming are very, very commonplace. They often sort of given away free with games perhaps, and I think moving into Battlefield 4, especially with PCs, and the fact that Battlefield 4 on PC is now going to have the voice over network feature, it's going to allow you to have in-game comms on the PC, which is going to be excellent. Okay, it really will be quite a game-changing thing. I think for many people it's going to be amazing, and I can't think of many PC players who won't have a mic available to be able to communicate. However, I want to say this was really where we were going with this today, was just talking about the fact that there's going to be those silent players there, but it's not the be-all and end-all. In fact, and perhaps PC players might even understand this better than sort of console players, from the point of view that most console players usually have some kind of voice in network system within the game, whereas PC, obviously, it's not always that case. You often have to have an external system, like TeamSpeak, for example. So we've been talking today about communication. We've been talking today about the silent, the well-understood players. Let me know what your thoughts are, guys. I'd like to hear some of your experiences about sort of teaming up with, players that don't communicate. You know the kind of thing. You're in a game, you're playing. There's a random, somebody that you've never spoken before. You come up, you kind of have that bond going on. You suddenly realise, hey, this guy's next to me. He's following me. We're doing good work together. Those kind of, and then you end up having like an epic round together because you're working together as a tight team. It's often the way you get sort of friendships made in games. You have a couple of tight games. You maybe don't even speak when you're actually playing those games, but you have this kind of unspoken bond going on. It's one of those fantastic moments in gaming, the kind of thing that I love, the kind of thing that you really look back on and you think, wow, that was some epic games we had there, really great. And often you send the guy a message later, play some more games, before you know it, you've been playing with the guy for like 5-6 years. So let me know your thoughts, guys. Be interested to hear. Lots of stuff happening this week. Eurogamer, going to be heading down there, going to be seeing a lot of guys, going to get some gameplay. I'm looking forward to it very, very much. Have a little bit of an update coming with that one, perhaps later today as well. Just a little follow-up before the Thursday. So thanks for watching today, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Drop it a like if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment below as always. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.